and good afternoon, everyone out there in internet land. It's a sunny, delightful day here in Binghamton on a Tuesday. And that's a big fat lie because it's not, but it was yesterday. It was yesterday. So I'm taking that for what it's worth. The dog was real happy. We got out to the park and everything. No walk today. It's raining. So we're all going to kind of hunker down indoors and get some work done. This is Yvonne DeVita from Smart Conversations. And today I have the honor of having a really special guest, Nick McGraw. Nick, welcome to the show.
I've never had anyone say that they were honored to talk to me, Yvonne. So the honor is shared right back in being in the same space with you right now.
Well, I really am, because I really can't wait to talk to you. But let me tell people a little bit more about you. Nick McGraw is a brand designer who helps entrepreneurs build awesome brands that stand out. He specializes in logo design and branding with a key focus for reaching your ideal clients and building lasting relationships. I like that word, relationships. Nick works closely with his clients to create timeless brands and to reach their goals. And I think that's a really interesting thing, timeless brand. What's a timeless brand in your estimation, Nick?
Another way to say that is just something that stands the test of time, something that doesn't subscribe to trends or flavor of the week. Sort of mentality. I try to tell people, beware of keep calm posters or Pantone's color of the year. Just because some other thing is like I said, a flavor of the week or flavor of the month. I don't know if you watch the Oscars, Yvonne, but Will Smith's little stunt has been in every meme, has been in every email marketing piece that I've received, because I subscribe to a bunch of stuff. Slap your competition. So, oh my God, like it's just the flavor of the moment. It's the thing of the moment. It's a trend and it's being done to death. And so things like that, they might gain popularity very quickly, but they die hard, right? And so I try to craft things for my clients where they can look back on it 5-10 years later and say, that logo is still awesome. And I'm glad it's on all our packaging. And I'm glad it's on the email. I'm glad, so I try to build things that people not only are happy with. Your happiness in our relationship and what I make for you is important to me, but its effectiveness is far more important.
Yes.
And I want your audience to continue to love it and fall in love. And that's not to say that your brand can't grow and evolve and maybe pivot slightly or adjust itself or have some course corrections along the way. But I try to build things for people, whether it's a logo or it's something much smaller than that, or it's something much bigger, like a full style guide or a branded website. Whatever it is I build for you, my mentality is, this is the last thing you're ever going to need. This is the last logo you ever buy. This is the last type of branding style guide you're ever going to need, because I'm doing my due diligence and I'm doing the deep work, the deep thinking work, and trying to reach your audience and still pull your values out of you and trying to marry those two things together. And so that equation should be enough to carry us into the future and sort of future proof your brand and your business. So I try to make things with that mentality front of mind. What can I do to not only satisfy everybody now, but 10, 15, 20 years from now, where we can all look back and say, wow, we all did a really good job at that.
Wow. Well, one thing though, so people shouldn't then hop on the latest trend. Don't we all want a trend? Don't we all want to be trending?
Yeah, I mean, I'm guilty of that too. I obviously use the in-moment thing, like that meme we just talked about the Oscars, or something that Elon Musk just bought Twitter. No one's going to stop talking about that for the next 2 or 3 months, right? Obviously, using those things in a tongue-in-cheek way, or using it to just kind of push your message along. If you want to make a post about it, if you want to send out an email about it, those are lightweight, easy to do things. Of course, we can use trends to our advantage, but to build your business on them, to use them as the foundation and the bedrock of your business, is wildly inappropriate. Doesn't prove to anybody that you've done any work. or that you've thought about your business or your brand or the audience that you're serving. Just because Gen Z or millennials like it for a moment doesn't mean they will forever. That also means the same thing for other generations as well. Just because a certain group likes something for a moment or for a little while doesn't mean it has the ability to have any staying power, right? And so we want to be aware of that, and that's why I try to tell people to show that you are present and in the moment, and you have your finger on the pulse of society. So it's important to know what's happening as we have this conversation, Yvonne. We're still creeping out of, some of us are sprinting out of the pandemic. So we need to be sensitive to that. There's a big war happening in the Ukraine. We need to make sure that we're aware of what's happening in world events. So it's okay to be woke and to be understanding about what's happening in the world, but to completely base your business decisions and the people that you serve based on happenings in the moment, I think is very short-sighted, and I think is immature. And I think what we want to do is we want to lean more into your values as a person, as a business, as a company, the values of your audience and the people you want to serve and the problem you solve for them, and bridge those two worlds together. And I think that's the winning solution.
That makes a lot of sense. One of the things that you're mentioning and talking about is audience. And for you to be able to do what you do, the brand you're working with kind of has to know their audience. But in my experience, people, they don't always know. So for instance, an author might come to me and I'll say to them, well, who is this book for? And they'll say, everybody.
My favorite answer.
It's not. And when you're building a brand, it's not for everybody either.
No, it can't be.
How do you help them around that?
It's funny. Your first question should certainly not be your last question, right? So your first question is, well, who is this book for? Right? And I actually had something similar to this. Okay, so you want to be a coach. So we're trying to coach people. I understand you have a particular set of skills. You've now found this new niche for yourself. So you're coaching. Who are your clients? Who do we want to coach? Well, everyone who needs a coach. This is a real conversation that happened with me like 6 months ago. And I was like, but that potentially could be every human on earth. And she went, yeah, that's great. Use that, Nick. Every human on earth. I'm like, no, I can't. Like, let's back up. I pump the brakes. I actually can't do that. Well, why not? I'm like, okay, who's the biggest company on earth? Maybe Apple, Amazon, something like that. They don't even have 8 billion customers. Like Apple doesn't even serve every human on earth because they know they can't. Not because they don't really want to, but because they know that's not a possible, feasible business plan or structure. Amazon doesn't have 8 billion users, right? That's about the population of the planet, but that's not everybody, right? So theoretically, you could coach anybody. I get that, but you can't take on everybody, right? So are you telling me that you can serve more people than Apple or Amazon? Oh, no, I can't do that. I'm like, no, I know you only want to have like a dozen clients a year. You don't have like 12 million, right? So let's keep working through this. If you could serve one person just so spectacularly, so well, what would they look like? Well, they'd probably look a lot like me. Okay, what does that mean? Well, 5 years ago, I was struggling and I hated corporate, and I was hitting a ceiling that I knew I couldn't break through, but I knew I could do more. I just couldn't do it there. And nobody believed that I could do any more at work. I really wasn't getting support at home either. I'm like, these are good things. And I'm always writing notes. I'm always taking notes, doing my discovery with clients. I'm like, okay, keep going. What else were you struggling with? Well, this, and a laundry list comes out of them. I'm like, and you believe in your heart that there are others out there where you were 5 years ago right now that you could help? And she went, absolutely. I'm like, that's who we need to help.
Yeah.
Those people. And those people aren't, I'm sure they're all over the globe, but they don't make up the entire population of Earth, right? And so we need to zero in on these people. And she went, well, how do we do that? I'm like, that's part of my job. I'm going to learn more about you, understand your values, understand what it is you want to bring to the table, how you want to serve, and how you want to do this every day, and what lights you up. What's your why? Why do you exist? And then we're going to find the people that need this type of help. We're going to understand your services and your offering, but we're also going to understand why you do it and why it matters to you. Because I think that passion is a value. I think that passion will come out in other people as well. And they'll see it come out of you and they'll say, oh, well, we agree on that thing. What are some other things that we agree on? And it's when your values line up with someone else's values, when you share similar values, that's when you know you can work together, right? And so if we do this fine dance, if we walk a fine line between showcasing your values and showing that we understand theirs, I think that's branding. Showing a little bit of you, showing a little bit of them and how we can help them and what matters to them and their pain points and what keeps them up at night. Showing that we understand our audience and showcasing who we are. It's kind of like what Simon Sinek said, you know, people don't buy the things that you make. They buy into you because they believe what you believe, right? And so if we showcase your values and we show that we have the same values as the audience, I think that's where branding really, you can develop your personal brand, not even a personal brand, like a corporate or a business brand. I think that's when you cross a threshold where you're no longer just a company, you're now a brand people buy into. I can get a coffee anywhere, but I love Starbucks, right? Like it's an experience that I can't get anywhere else. And I know that, right? So I'm buying into the brand. Yeah, I'm paying $9 for a cup of coffee. That's probably not that much better than anything else, but it's something that I bought into, and it's agreeable brand. I like their values. I like their products, but I like their values more than I like their products, right? And so same thing with her. She's a coach. I can get coaching anywhere, probably pretty effective. Why should I hire you? Graphic designer, perfect example. I'm a graphic designer in Toronto, Yvonne. I'm a dime a dozen. I am not special. People want to work with me though, because they get something else. They get some extra spice. They get some experience and some relationship that they can't get anywhere else. And so that's what I sell. I hardly sell my services anymore. I sell more who I am, the experience of working with me, and the potential to build your brand up to a level that you never thought possible before. Like that's what excites me. I want to showcase you to the best you can be. I want to make you look great. That's why I exist. I live here on this earth. The reason I'm here is to make you look friggin' amazing, right? That's what I want to do with branding and design and all that. So that's why I'm here. And if you believe what I believe, that you need to get there, then we can work together, right? So it's all about doing the digging and the introspective work about, you know, why this, why that, who is it do I want to serve? Why do I want to serve them, right? If you don't really know what you're good at yet and why you're here, think about a thing that you love so much. What's one thing, this is what I sometimes ask people when they're in the early days of building their business. What's one thing you could talk about so much that you would literally never get bored of it? Everyone else around you would be tired of hearing it. But for the next 30 or 40 years, you could talk about that and never get bored of it. That's probably the work you need to be doing.
That makes so much sense. I mean, we talk about passion, and we talk about having a desire to help people. That's what I do is I help people obviously write and publish books. But when it comes to branding, here's the interesting thing in marrying a little bit of what you do with what I do. Authors don't tend to think of themselves as a brand, and they should. And so that's one of the things that I deal with when I'm talking with them. And I say to them that this book that you're writing, whether it's a novel, a memoir, or a business book, it's designed for certain people. So we go through some of the things you talked about. We talk about who the audience actually is. Who are the 5 people actually need this book? And do they know 5 other people who might need this book? But let's start with these 5 first. But in the end, I say to the authors that I work with, you know what? We're not selling the book. We're selling you, because I'm going to buy the book and read the book because you convinced me that it was going to solve some problem for me, and I trusted you. So how do we get authors to understand branding?
It's more than just authors, Yvonne. It's just about everybody who thinks that. I think there's been a lot of I think there's a lot of misinformation, and I think there's a lot of you see someone successful over here and you just want to mimic it, and there's a lot of mimicry, and they're like, well, they unlocked that, and almost every successful entrepreneur has from the small minnows like me on LinkedIn to the Gary V's, Everybody, well, more so the big giants, they look like they're such a well-oiled machine, right? They look like all the cylinders are firing. We're all in sixth gear. Everything looks like it's coming off perfectly for them. It's very easy to look at them and say, wow, what a passive income strategy they've built for themselves. There's nothing passive about it, right? Some of these guys get like 2 hours of sleep a night, okay, because they're grinding and they're working. There's nothing passive about being a personal brand. It's you showing up every day. I'll put you in a Ferrari, but you still got to fill the gas tank. And I could build a beautiful brand for you, just like the most beautiful like branding suite of all the fonts, colors, imagery, video, the messaging, the tone of voice. I could make it perfect. I could keep making the posts and the content for you, and we could keep it up. But if you don't show up and you don't help fuel this fire, you're the kerosene that we got to dump on this brush fire, right? Like if you're not the one showing up and doing the work, then there's only so much. Like a Ferrari parked in a garage is still a Ferrari parked in a garage, not driving anywhere.
Right.
Nobody cares about a Ferrari with a car cover over it. Like, let's get it out on the streets and go for a rip. Like, we need to show it off, right? You're the person driving it. I need you to put the gas in the tank and drive it for us, right? And so it's not a difficult conversation to have. It just takes time for the message to register, right? Oh, I got to do this. I got to show up. I got to be the one, getting in the car and going for a drive. I'm the one who's got to have these conversations. I'm the one who's got to show up in lives or in video or whatever it is. And if you want to be this personal brand, then you got to be the face of the brand, right? It's you that's driving this business forward, right? No one's going to do it for you. So there's nothing passive about this, right? You look at some of these media moguls like Tony Robbins and Gary and all these, and they have an army of media people around them recording their every thought, their every little bit of speech, and not everyone can have $1 million a day to spend on this stuff. But they still show up for themselves, and they show up in front of a phone and take a quick video of themselves for the day, and they're still showing up for themselves because they know doesn't matter how many team members I have around me, it's still me that has to be team captain here and show up and make the plays, right? So it's just a conversation that has to keep happening. You don't in your world, how do I get authors to understand this? You just keep telling them, and you keep telling them, and you keep telling them. And showing industry examples helps too.
Yeah, and the big thing that you're saying that we need to recognize is none of those people started out with $1 million and had all of these extra, people around them to do. They started out very much the same way everybody else did. They had an idea and they went out and they did. And to your point, I know from Gary Vee, because I follow him, he is one of the biggest go-getters. He is out there hustling. He was hustling from day one. So in the end, yes, you have to show up. You have to show up, and when we talk to our authors and say to them, you show up, you become personable, you become approachable, and you are the name. So if you look at very successful authors today, and we're talking about probably, for most people, they're going to look at the bestseller lists. If you look at them today as opposed to 50 years ago, and yes, people, I can go back 50 years ago, the author's name is bigger than the title of the book. Why? Because they're selling the author. It's, I want to read a mystery thriller. I'm going to go read John Sanford or whomever it is. And so even a new author, their name is not going to be bigger than the title of their book, but they have to build a brand. And so when I tell them that, I also then kind of dip my toe into saying things like, well, we got to talk about colors. We got to talk about a logo. We got to talk about the things that you do. So tell me a little bit more about the design part of branding.
Yeah, I mean, most people's grasp on it, and I get it, because the work that I do needs to have deliverables, right? There needs to be tangible things at the end of this. Part of my job is consultant, but so many consultants just give you like a playbook. They're like, okay, here's all the problems I've seen with your company. There you go. And then the company's left with their hands are you going to action this? Oh, no, I'm just a consultant. You got to figure out how to put all these things. Well, I gave you the recipe, just go make the cake, but I don't have any of the ingredients. I don't know how to do this. So part of the role that I fill for my clients is obviously consultant and ideation and discovery and strategy. Like brand strategy is great. And I see a lot of people positioning themselves as brand strategists now, but I wonder what exactly they're delivering, because they charge $10,000 for brand strategy for like 2 or 3 weeks of brand strategy to a client. But then what are they left with at the end of that? Just a PDF document? Like, are they just left with like a 50-page document of here's your brand now? Yeah, I don't have anything. I don't have a website. Oh, well, you can go hire someone for that. Yeah, but I don't have a logo. I don't have any real branding. I have words on a paper. Like I have words written down about what my strategy should be, but no one's turned it into anything. So the design part of branding, the triple threat that people usually need in my world are a logo. Even if you're a personal brand, like I'm a personal brand, Yvonne, so are you. We both have a logo, a style guide, which is basically a document of everything we talked about, your positioning in the marketplace, your
talk
messaging,
about that.
Your core values, who your target audience is, and your unique selling position. Your unique selling position or your unique selling powers are your USPs of like what makes you different. Like, why should I hire you over anybody else? Like if you were a contractor and you build kitchens or renovate basements, why would I hire you over anybody else? It can't just be, well, my pricing's better. You mean your pricing's lower? Cheap isn't always better, right? People think cheaper is better. It's not always, right? I get really crap quality if I spend too little, right? So there's got to be a reason why you're better. Is it because you're always reachable? Is it because you're just local and you're like the guy, you're the go-to person here? What are your unique selling positions? So it's a lot of that thought-provoking, like deep strategy work that we got to do. But then those things, sort of the way those things manifest are through logo design or identity design, creating a full branding suite. So like your colors, your fonts, your imagery, videography, things like that, making sure these are the things that these are the ingredients that we can go use to bake any cake, basically. So logo, style guide, and then usually people need a website. It's really hard. You can do it, and you can do it without a logo, right? But it's really hard in today's modern age in 2022 to exist and like not have a website, especially if you're a business and you want to make money. It's really hard not to have a website, because your website is a digital portal where people can just see what you're all about. Your about section, contact if I wanted to get a hold of you, your services, your offerings, your products. Like I'm the first thing people are going to do is Google you, right? And if they're just meeting you for the first time, or they find you on LinkedIn or whatever. This is a perfect example of the rabbit hole you fall down, Yvonne, because I have a client right now, and we started right out of the gates doing content with each other. And I guess this is, I just talked about the triple threat of logo, branding, and website. If there was a fourth to that, it would be content, right? And a lot of people I just do content for. I'm not doing their logos or the websites, but we're doing monthly content with each other every single month like clockwork. And our first successful month together, at the end of it, she says to me, so this is a good thing, but because you're making all this beautiful content for me, people are finding me now more. I'm like, great, that's what we wanted. Well, no, it's not great, because I realize there's a whole bunch of stuff I haven't made yet. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, I don't have a website, or at least not one that functions well, or at least not one that sells me at all. It's a piece of junk, and I'm embarrassed to show people. So it's not even a link in my LinkedIn profile. So I go to where we met was LinkedIn. I'm like, okay, let me pretend like I'm a person just finding you for the first time. I interact with your content. Your content shows up on my feed because you use the right hashtag. Okay, great. Oh, that's cool. Who's this? Okay, so click on person, go to profile. Banner looks great because I designed it. Profile pic looks great because I made it look great. Oh, wow, her profile really is coming. Like, this is a really nice profile. Let's go to contact info. Okay, and you know how some people put like their date of birth and their Twitter profile? So I'm like, I see that information, but there's no website. That's kind of disappointing. So the trail runs cold. People can't dive down the rabbit hole that is you and learn more about you and get curious. This is all the awareness top of your funnel. People need to be aware of you, and they need to, and then the next part of the funnel is they're going to take interest in you. If I saw a piece of content in the feed, like let's say on LinkedIn, for example, or on Facebook or on YouTube, for the first time ever, I'm now aware of you. You're now on my radar. I'm like, oh, never seen you before. Maybe I want to learn more. If I see enough of your content repeat itself throughout the week or throughout the month, I'm like, okay, this is the 6th time I've seen this person. Who are they? I then go on to their profile. I learn a little bit more. So now I'm going from awareness to interest. They're funneling me more down into making a decision on them. So I'm now awareness, now interest. I'm going on their website. I'm looking at their services. I'm looking at where they come from. You know, what do they do in their spare time? I like to go on hikes, but I also play with the kids. And I'm also an excellent copywriter, marketing person, and so I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I need these services. And now I get serious about them. And they start, I now follow them, right? They're now part of my like online circle, right? They're part of my like bubble that I like to associate with in the digital space and in the real world. And so now they're really a part of my life. And maybe a couple more months go by, I'm like, I need to reach out to this person. So now a decision is made. You go from awareness, interest to decision. And then finally, eventually you want to close a sale with them. Sales look different for everybody. Maybe it's just booking a call. Maybe it's actually signing a retainer client on or whatever it is. But it's all part and parcel to building this brand and making people getting into the top of your funnel and then knowing who you are, right? And so it's kind of there's so many moving parts to a process like this, and you just want to make sure that you show up in all the right ways that you can. And so the deliverables that I provide for people are things like logo, branding, website, and content. And this team of things seems to be the right recipe of what people need to get out there in the digital space and in the real world and grow themselves and grow their brands and make money, just grow their businesses and grow their brands.
Right. And I really like the way you have those 4 important things in the website. I become so frustrated when, especially on LinkedIn, if I go to somebody new who contacted me or that I saw in my feed and I check them out and there's no website. Yeah. And I'm more than disappointed. I'm somewhat appalled because it's like, to your point, I wanted to learn a little bit more than you're telling me on LinkedIn, and you're not giving me that opportunity. And so now I'm like, well, okay, then I guess you don't really want me to know anything about you. Excuse me. So when it comes to website, when it comes to branding, can we talk a little bit about color? I feel like one of the things I've talked about for many, many years, and I am not, by the way, don't come to me for branding, don't come to me for websites or anything, but here's the scoop. I do know that color is important. And I do know that do you help people with color, in other words? Because I had experiences where color is just, oh, I like the color orange, so let's make everything orange. Really?
Yeah, it's definitely part of the process. Like I would say that's if I were to start from scratch for somebody and they said, I want the triple threat, Nick, I want the logo, the branding, the website, let's do it all. I actually start with the logo. Well, that's not where I start. We do the discovery work.
Right.
The values. Let's pretend all the theory stuff was already done. So I'm now designing. I actually start with the logo because you build them in black and white. First of all, you're not distracting yourself in color. First of all, everybody's brand on earth, from Coca-Cola to Walmart to you and I, Yvonne, everybody's brand on earth is definitely black and white. Some of them go the extra mile and live in a color, right? So every brand on earth can live in black and white. They have to. But some of them take the next step. Some brands just live in black and white. Some of them just do. Like a lot of fashion brands are capable of doing this, like Chanel and stuff like that. They're quite capable of living just in black and white. But then you'll have Coca-Cola who has like their Coca-Cola red, which is trademarked. There's a little bit of purple in that red. A lot of people don't know that. McDonald's has 2 of them. They have both their red and their gold, right? And so everybody has a black and white brand. But then, you go that next step and you have maybe a brand color or 2, right? I've seen tons, Yvonne. I've seen so many of these people, and it looks like they're brand new at talking about branding. This is what all the colors mean. Here's the theory of every color you ever need to know. Green means vitality and you're good with money and all these things. And yellow is energy and blue is wisdom and red is passion and anger. I'm like, Yeah, but I could make a case for anything. Like I could make, my brand is like pinks and greens, and it had nothing to do with any of that theory nonsense. I picked them deliberately. One, because I like them. So I'm kind of destroying your argument. You're like, well, I like orange, so I picked orange. I like them, but I like them for a purpose, not because I want to paint my room in pinks and greens. That would be nauseating. I like them because I know what they do for me. I like them because they arrest people on the feed. When I put a piece of content out or a graphic or a carousel and it's covered in these horrifying pinks and greens, it looks like watermelon, people go, oh, what's this? Oh, that stopped me in my tracks. It's arresting, right? I like them because they're doing something for my brand. They're helping me get out there. And I can't tell you how many times people have come back to me like, I love your color. Like that's what made me like really take a look at you. Like you showed up, you stand out in a sea of sameness. I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Like the medium is the message here. I want to show that through color and through tone of voice, my loud energy, right? I'm not using dull grays. That's not who I am, right? Who I am is loud and full of energy and youth. And so I don't want to come off obnoxious, but I want to show that this is the energy that you're going to get if you work with Nick McGraw. And so those things are married to my personality and to the service that I bring my clients. And they know they're not going to get some dull, quiet, introvert. They're going to get someone who's full of energy, full of voice, full of passion. And I could have used any colors. I could have used red. That symbolizes those things. Red and yellow. Those are pretty energy kind of grabbing colors, but I also wanted to be different. I also wanted to stand out, and I wanted to do things in sort of a clashing way, so that I would stand out and be different. I've never seen anybody pull off the pink and green. Like they were actually inspired, Yvonne, seriously, they were inspired by highlighters, right? Seriously, I love them a lot. I'm like, that'll work, right? I know it will. And so I wanted to stand out and be different. That's what I tell my clients. My one client that I was talking about, how we're going to build her website next. Her colors aren't revolutionary. She was a very Americana about it. She loved red, white, and blue. I'm like, okay, so how do I make you look not like a patriot? Like how do I work with these colors and make it not look like you're running for office? Right? how do I make that happen? And I think we pulled it off. And they're colors that she likes, she believes in, they work with her brand. But the way I've used them, I've used a slightly purpley blue and a slightly more pinky red. Right? They're softer. They're not so clashing. They're not like super corporate America. They're a little bit softer, and a little bit more humanistic. And because of that, she stands out. And even her graphic stuff, that's just static. That's not video for talking. It's just static stuff. People, they compliment her all the time. Like, wow, like, of course I've seen red and blue before. Like, of course I've seen brands use this, but I've never seen them the way you've used them. Right? And there's a thought process behind them. Like, how do I do what satisfies my client, but also satisfies her potential audience? Who are we trying to reach? Right? And she's reaching for people who are mid 40s, 50, mid 50s, who are potentially buying businesses or swapping businesses or selling and closing businesses. So people with money, right? And we don't want to turn them off and scare them with pinks and greens like me. That wouldn't be appropriate. But let's make something that they would more agreeable to them, right? And we don't have to be loud and obnoxious about it, right? So yeah, color is color can be as big or as little a part of the equation as you want it to be. But people get so hung up on it, Yvonne. Like I was talking to someone last year and they're like, can I just show you my brand colors? Like, can you just take a look at them for me? I'm like, yeah, sure. 13. They showed me 13 circles of colors and all with the hex codes. And 6 of them, Yvonne, were fleshy, beigey, sort of other fleshy, another type of beige, another type of off-white that looked beige, and then another. I'm like, sorry, did this come out of the neutrals section of the Home Depot, like paint your house catalog? Like, where the hell did you get these? Oh, I was messing around on Canva. Okay, so messing around doesn't build a brand, right? Like you being creative and throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, that doesn't build a brand, right? I picked my pinks and greens, and there's white in my brand too. Like I said, everyone's brand is black and white. I picked them not arbitrarily, right? They have purpose and there is reason behind them and there is logic behind them. It might be a backwards sort of failed logic, but they're my logic, right? Like I definitely was pointing myself in a direction to use them because I wanted to stand out. I wanted to make a splash. I wanted to make a noise. And I knew, we talked about trends, in a couple of years, those colors are still going to be hot. I know they will be. They're not trendy at all because they're still me. They're still Nick McGraw, and I'll never lose this energy, and I'll never lose who I am, and I'll still love them. I wear my pink McGraw shirt in all my videos. I'm not going to stop doing that tomorrow, right? I wear my logo on my hat all the time, on my snapback hat. I'm always walking around town with it. I live my brand where I can, right? And so it works for me. It's timeless for me. It stands the test of time for me because I know I can keep that energy up. Not to say my brand will never grow and never evolve. Of course I will. I do it every day. But this will be timeless enough for me so that people recognize me now, and they will continue to recognize me hopefully a few years from now when I'm even more recognizable and I stand out even more and I continue. And I've only ever seen one person try to copy the pinks and greens, and they can't pull it off. It was kind of like a they were starting up like a food thing, like a food and beverage company, and they just couldn't pull it off. And someone actually sent it to me like, hey, they're copying your colors. I'm like, let them see where just go. Let's see where it goes.
And that's
right. So colors important, and you're right to talk about it, but people get hung up on it because color is an emotional thing. You like
exactly.
Right.
I mean, when we get back down to everything, it comes down to that emotional connection. And we have an emotional connection to this brand we're building. So there's a certain color maybe that we like for it. But maybe that color doesn't work. Maybe it's a variation of that color that works better. So talking to someone who has the ability to create the kinds of things you do in the world of design is better than fooling around on Canva.
Yeah.
So I'm, as you know, I'm purple. I'm having a bad hair day, so I had to put my hair up today. But everyone knows when they see Yvonne that she has purple hair, and that's just, I mean, in the old days it was I had red hair. But we're coming to the end today because this has been so informative and illuminating, kind of even helping me, because when we talk to authors especially, and I will say this, this is just, if you're an author or would-be author, here's the truth. Nobody ever only writes one book. If you only write one book, well, I really don't know. Those people tend not to then go on and become the brand and become the author of, or get speaking engagements. You really need to be prolific, and most authors are. Most authors are prepared to write more than one book. Then this is going to be your brand. And so you need to think about a logo. You need to think about a website. You need to think about the colors and the things that represent the message that you're sharing, because every book you write is going to have a message, and they're all going to be similar because it's going to be in your field, whatever that is. So Nick, tell us where we can find you and how to get a hold of you, and if you have anything coming up that we should know about. I know we can find you on LinkedIn because I see you there all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a little bit of a freebie for your listeners. And it's, we talked about content and how powerful content is. And a lot of times people don't know even where to start with content. What should my next post be? What are some of the rules I can follow to make sure it lights up like a Christmas tree? So my 10X content checklist is totally free for people to go grab. They can go on my website right now, mcgrawsome.com. And that is spelled like my last name, McGraw, like Tim McGraw. I'm not related to him. I get that a lot. MCGRAW, but then also spell the word awesome. So as you're spelling AWESOME, mcgrawsome.com, go to my website. You will find the link there that says download the free checklist. Throw in your email, the checklist is yours, and it will help you make sure that your next piece of content that you post, whether it's a graphic, the written word post, or a video, gets the most amount of excitement and the most amount of engagement possible. And makes you feel better with the return that you put the effort into the post in the beginning, right? So my 10X content checklist is free for people to grab. They can go to my website, mcgrawsome.com. Like you said, I live on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to connect with anybody there as well.
Well, this has been really fantastic, Nick. It really was an honor to have you here. And by the way, everyone, I have the 10X checklist, and it is pretty phenomenal. I'll tell you that much. Plus, I want everyone to know that we met on LinkedIn, and this is something that I talk about when I have a guest on that comes from a meeting on LinkedIn. And it wasn't just we happened to, I don't really know how we happened to connect on LinkedIn, but I'm glad we did. And this is my point, is when you're on LinkedIn, you need to, as Nick has said, you need to have a strategy. You need to know how to post the content. You need to be aware that it's a platform for business professionals, but it's also a place to meet people, to network and get to know other people and build relationships. And that's,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm really happy that Nick and I could connect. So that's it for today. And I will have this up on the blog soon enough. And Nick, I can't thank you enough for being here.
Thank you, Elon. Appreciate it.